Question 1. In Washington State, what is the primary purpose of Miranda warnings and rights during the arrest process? A. To inform suspects of their right to an attorney and to remain silent. B. To intimidate suspects in confessing to crimes. C. To prevent suspects from accessing legal representation. D. To expedite the interrogation process. Correct answer. A. To inform suspects of their right to an attorney and to remain silent. Explanation. Miranda warnings and rights are essential components of the arrest process in Washington State, designed to inform suspects of their constitutional rights, including the right to remain silent and the right to legal representation. These warnings, derived from the landmark Supreme Court case Miranda v. Arizona, 1966, aim to protect suspects' Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and Sixth Amendment right to counsel during custodial interrogations. By advising suspects of their rights before questioning, law enforcement officers ensure that any statements obtained are voluntary and not coerced, safeguarding the integrity of the criminal justice process. Failure to provide Miranda warnings may result in the suppression of incriminating statements made by the suspect during interrogation, as courts typically require adherence to procedural safeguards to uphold constitutional principles and protect individual rights. Question 2. How does community policing contribute to law enforcement efforts in Washington State? A. By alienating community members and creating distrust. B. By prioritizing enforcement over community engagement. C. By fostering collaboration, trust, and problem-solving partnerships. D. By deploying aggressive tactics to control neighborhoods. Correct answer. C. By fostering collaboration, trust, and problem-solving partnerships. Explanation. Community policing plays a vital role in law enforcement efforts in Washington State by fostering collaboration, trust, and problem-solving partnerships between law enforcement agencies and the communities they serve. This approach emphasizes proactive engagement, open communication, and mutual respect between officers and residents, aiming to address underlying causes of crime, disorder, and community concerns. By building relationships and working together with community members, law enforcement officers can identify and address local priorities, develop tailored strategies for crime prevention and problem solving, and enhance public safety outcomes. Community policing initiatives such as neighborhood watch programs, community forums, and collaborative problem-solving projects empower residents to actively participate in crime prevention efforts, strengthen community resilience, and promote positive police-community relations. By embracing community policing principles, law enforcement agencies in Washington State can create safer, more inclusive communities where trust, cooperation, and shared responsibility are valued. Question 3. What distinguishes felonies from misdemeanors in Washington State's criminal law? A. The defendant's income level. B. The severity of the offense and potential punishment. C. The defendant's political affiliation. D. The type of evidence admissible in court. Correct answer. B. The severity of the offense and potential punishment. Explanation. In Washington State's criminal law, felonies and misdemeanors are distinguished primarily by the severity of the offense and the potential punishment imposed upon conviction. Felonies are more serious crimes that typically carry harsher penalties, including imprisonment for more than 1 year, substantial fines, or both. Examples of felonies may include murder, robbery, or certain drug offenses. In contrast, misdemeanors are less serious offenses punishable by shorter jail sentences, smaller fines, or alternative sanctions such as community service. Examples of misdemeanors may include petty theft, disorderly conduct, or simple assault. The classification of offenses as felonies or misdemeanors influences various aspects of the criminal justice process, including the procedural requirements for trial, sentencing options available to the court, and collateral consequences for convicted individuals. Understanding these distinctions is essential for law enforcement officers in Washington State to accurately enforce the law, investigate criminal activities, and ensure appropriate accountability for offenders. Question 4. What legal authority do law enforcement officers in Washington State possess when responding to emergency calls? A. Unrestricted discretion to use force as deemed necessary. B. Authority to enter private property without consent. C. Power to detain individuals without probable cause. D. Authorization to take necessary action to protect life and property. Correct answer. D. Authorization to take necessary action to protect life and property. Explanation. Law enforcement officers in Washington state possess the legal authority to take necessary action to protect life and property when responding to emergency calls. This authority is grounded in state laws, regulations, and departmental policies that empower officers to intervene in emergencies, prevent harm, and maintain public order. When faced with emergencies such as medical crises, natural disasters, or incidents involving threats to public safety, officers are authorized to take prompt and decisive action to mitigate risks, provide assistance, and ensure the safety and well-being of individuals and communities. This may include rendering aid to injured persons, evacuating affected areas, securing crime scenes, and using force when justified and necessary to address imminent threats. While exercising this authority, officers are expected to adhere to legal standards, departmental protocols, and ethical principles, prioritizing the preservation of life and the protection of constitutional rights. The ability of law enforcement officers to respond effectively to emergencies contributes to public safety, emergency preparedness, and the overall well-being of Washington state communities. Question 5. How can law enforcement officers in Washington state recognize signs of mental health issues during interactions with individuals? A. By disregarding behavioral cues and body language. B. By assuming that all individuals with mental health issues are dangerous. C. By undergoing specialized training and education. D. By using excessive force to control individuals. Correct answer. C. By undergoing specialized training and education. Explanation. Law enforcement officers in Washington state can recognize signs of mental health issues during interactions with individuals by undergoing specialized training and education in mental health awareness and crisis intervention techniques. Such training equips officers with the knowledge, skills, and strategies to identify common signs and symptoms of mental illness, understand how mental health conditions may affect behavior and communication, and respond appropriately to individuals in crisis. By recognizing behavioral cues, verbal expressions, and body language indicative of mental health issues, officers can de-escalate situations, offer support and assistance, and connect individuals with appropriate resources and services. This proactive approach promotes the safety and well-being of both individuals in crisis and law enforcement personnel, reduces the likelihood of unnecessary use of force or escalation, and fosters positive outcomes for all parties involved. Recognizing the importance of mental health training underscores Washington state's commitment to promoting compassionate and effective responses to mental health crises within the criminal justice system. Question 6. What is the primary objective of conducting foot patrols and neighborhood watches in Washington state? A. To intimidate residents and deter crime through fear. B. To isolate law enforcement from community members. C. To enhance community engagement and deter criminal activity. D. To prioritize certain neighborhoods over others. Correct answer. C. To enhance community engagement and deter criminal activity. Explanation. The primary objective of conducting foot patrols and neighborhood watches in Washington state is to enhance community engagement and deter criminal activity through proactive law enforcement efforts and collaboration with residents. Foot patrols involve officers walking or biking through neighborhoods to increase police visibility, promote positive interactions with community members, and address quality of life concerns. Neighborhood watch programs encourage residents to participate in crime prevention by reporting suspicious activities, forming partnerships with law enforcement, and implementing strategies to reduce opportunities for crime. By fostering relationships, trust, and cooperation between law enforcement agencies and the communities they serve, foot patrols and neighborhood watches create safer environments, deter criminal behavior, and promote a sense of ownership and responsibility among residents for maintaining public safety. These proactive policing approaches align with community-oriented policing principles, emphasizing partnership, problem-solving, and shared responsibility in addressing local concerns and enhancing the overall quality of life in Washington state neighborhoods. Question 7. How does the concept of confidentiality apply to law enforcement officers in Washington state? A. By requiring officers to disclose sensitive information to the public. B. By allowing officers to share confidential information with unauthorized individuals. C. By protecting sensitive information obtained during investigations. D. By permitting officers to use confidential information for personal gain. Correct answer. C. By protecting sensitive information obtained during investigations. Explanation. In Washington state, The concept of confidentiality applies to law enforcement officers by protecting sensitive information obtained during investigations from unauthorized disclosure. Confidentiality is essential for maintaining the integrity of criminal investigations, protecting the privacy rights of individuals, and preserving the confidentiality of sensitive law enforcement strategies and tactics. Officers are entrusted with access to confidential information such as ongoing investigations, confidential informants, and privileged communications, which must be safeguarded from disclosure to unauthorized individuals or entities. Violations of confidentiality can compromise the effectiveness of investigations, jeopardize the safety of individuals involved, and undermine public trust in law enforcement. Therefore, officers are bound by legal and ethical obligations to respect the confidentiality of sensitive information, adhere to departmental policies and procedures governing its use and disclosure, and uphold the trust and confidence placed in them by the community. By maintaining confidentiality, law enforcement officers in Washington state demonstrate professionalism, integrity, and commitment to upholding the rule of law while protecting the rights and interests of all parties involved. Question 8. How can law enforcement officers in Washington state apply critical thinking skills to analyze situations and identify potential outcomes? A. By relying on intuition and gut instincts. B. By seeking input from community members. C. By carefully evaluating evidence and considering multiple factors. D. By avoiding analysis and making impulsive decisions. Correct answer. C. By carefully evaluating evidence and considering multiple factors. Explanation. Law enforcement officers in Washington state can apply critical thinking skills to analyze situations and identify potential outcomes by carefully evaluating evidence and considering multiple factors relevant to the circumstances. Critical thinking involves the objective assessment of information, the identification of underlying assumptions, and the consideration of alternative perspectives to arrive at well-reasoned conclusions. When confronted with complex or ambiguous situations, officers must gather relevant facts, assess the credibility and reliability of sources, and weigh the potential consequences of different courses of action. By engaging in systematic analysis and reasoned judgment, officers can anticipate the likely outcomes of their decisions, anticipate potential risks or unintended consequences, and formulate effective strategies to achieve desired objectives while minimizing adverse impacts. Critical thinking skills are essential for law enforcement officers to navigate challenging and dynamic environments, make informed decisions in high-pressure situations, and adapt to changing circumstances while upholding the principles of fairness, justice, and public safety. Question 9. How does familiarity with common law enforcement equipment benefit officers in Washington state? A. By increasing revenue through equipment fines. B. By enabling officers to intimidate suspects. C. By enhancing officer safety and effectiveness. D. By reducing the need for communication skills. Correct answer. C. By enhancing officer safety and effectiveness. Explanation. Familiarity with common law enforcement equipment benefits officers in Washington state by enhancing their safety and effectiveness in carrying out their duties. Equipment such as radios, firearms, body armor, and less lethal tools are essential for officers to respond to emergencies, protect themselves and others, and enforce the law. By knowing how to properly use and maintain this equipment, officers can mitigate risks, respond more efficiently to incidents, and make informed decisions in high-pressure situations. Additionally, specialized equipment such as radar guns, breathalyzers, and forensic tools aid in conducting investigations, gathering evidence, and ensuring compliance with traffic and criminal laws. While effective communication skills remain essential for law enforcement officers, familiarity with equipment enhances their capabilities and confidence in handling diverse challenges encountered in the field. By investing in training and technology, agencies in Washington state can equip officers with the tools and resources necessary to perform their duties safely, effectively, and professionally, thereby enhancing public safety and maintaining community trust. Question 10. What is the role of law enforcement officers in the criminal justice system of Washington state? A. To prioritize personal interests over public safety. B. To enforce laws impartially and protect the rights of all individuals. C. To discriminate against certain demographic groups. D. To undermine the integrity of the legal process. Correct answer. B. To enforce laws impartially and protect the rights of all individuals. Explanation. The role of law enforcement officers in the criminal justice system of Washington State is to enforce laws impartially and protect the rights of all individuals, regardless of race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. Officers are entrusted with upholding the rule of law, maintaining public order, and safeguarding the rights and liberties guaranteed by the state and federal constitutions. This includes investigating crimes, apprehending suspects, and presenting evidence to support criminal prosecutions, while respecting the procedural safeguards and due process rights afforded to all parties involved. Law enforcement officers are expected to exercise their authority with fairness, integrity, and professionalism, adhering to ethical standards and legal principles that promote accountability, transparency, and justice. By fostering public trust and confidence through equitable and respectful interactions, officers contribute to the legitimacy and effectiveness of the criminal justice system, enhance public safety, and uphold the values of democracy and the rule of law in Washington State. Question 11. What is the significance of understanding local ordinances for law enforcement officers in Washington State? A. It allows officers to bypass legal procedures. B. It enables officers to enforce laws inconsistently. C. It ensures officers can effectively address community-specific issues. D. It encourages officers to disregard state laws. Correct answer. C. It ensures officers can effectively address community-specific issues. Explanation. Understanding local ordinances is significant for law enforcement officers in Washington State as it enables them to effectively address community-specific issues. Local ordinances are laws enacted by municipalities or local government entities to address matters of local concern, such as noise regulations, zoning restrictions, and public nuisance ordinances. By familiarizing themselves with these ordinances, officers can enforce regulations that are tailored to the unique needs and priorities of their communities. This proactive approach allows officers to address quality of life concerns, promote public safety, and respond to neighborhood-specific challenges effectively. Additionally, understanding local ordinances facilitates collaboration between law enforcement agencies and local stakeholders, including residents, businesses, and community organizations, to develop targeted strategies for crime prevention and problem solving. By enforcing local ordinances in conjunction with state laws, officers uphold the rule of law, protect community interests, and contribute to the overall well-being of Washington State communities. Question 12. What is the primary purpose of law enforcement in Washington State? A. To enforce traffic laws and regulations. B. To protect citizens and communities from harm. C. To investigate and solve crimes. D. To collect fines and fees. Correct answer. B. To protect citizens and communities from harm. Explanation. According to the Washington State Constitution, Article IV, Section 12, the primary purpose of law enforcement is to protect citizens and communities from harm. This includes enforcing laws, responding to calls for service, and investigating crimes. Question 13. What is the definition of a felony crime in Washington State? A. A crime punishable by imprisonment for more than 1 year. B. A crime punishable by imprisonment for less than 1 year. C. A crime punishable by fines only. D. A crime punishable by community service. Correct answer. A crime punishable by imprisonment for more than 1 year. Explanation. According to Washington State Law UB.4.110, a felony crime is punishable by imprisonment for more than 1 year. Question 14. Mr. Thompson is a passenger in a vehicle that is stopped by an officer for a traffic violation. The officer approaches the vehicle and asks Mr. Thompson to step out of the vehicle. What should Mr. Thompson do? A. Refuse to step out of the vehicle. B. Step out of the vehicle and comply with the officer's instructions. C. Ask the officer why he is being stopped. D. Attempt to flee from the scene. Correct answer. B. Step out of the vehicle and comply with the officer's instructions. Explanation. According to Washington State Law UB.60.40, when an officer has stopped a vehicle, the driver and passengers must comply with the officer's instructions. Question 15. What is the purpose of Miranda warnings in Washington State? A. To inform suspects of their rights under the Washington State Constitution. B. To warn suspects of potential consequences of their actions. C. To advise suspects of their legal options. D. To inform suspects of their rights under federal law. Correct answer. C. To advise suspects of their legal options. Explanation. According to Washington State Law RUW 8.60.20, Miranda warnings are intended to advise suspects of their legal options, including their right to remain silent, their right to an attorney, and their right to confront witnesses. Question 16. What is the definition of community policing in Washington State? A. A policing strategy that focuses on enforcing laws and regulations. B. A policing strategy that focuses on building relationships with community members. C. A policing strategy that focuses on responding to emergency calls. D. A policing strategy that focuses on investigating crimes. Correct answer. B. A policing strategy that focuses on building relationships with community members. Explanation. According to Washington State Law UN 36.10, community policing is a policing strategy that focuses on building relationships with community members and addressing their concerns. Question 17. What is the purpose of an arrest warrant in Washington State? A. To authorize an officer to make an arrest without probable cause. B. To authorize an officer to make an arrest based on probable cause. C. To authorize an officer to search a suspect's property without a warrant. D. To authorize an officer to seize evidence without a warrant. Correct answer. B. To authorize an officer to make an arrest based on probable cause. Explanation. According to Washington State Law 37020, an arrest warrant authorizes an officer to make an arrest based on probable cause. Question 18. What is the definition of a hate crime in Washington State? A. A crime motivated by bias or prejudice against an individual or group based on race, religion, or other characteristics. B. A crime committed by a person who has been previously convicted of a hate crime. C. A crime that involves violence or property damage against an individual or group based on race, religion, or other characteristics. D. A crime that does not involve violence or property damage against an individual or group based on race, religion, or other characteristics. Correct answer. A. A crime motivated by bias or prejudice against an individual or group based on race, religion, or other characteristics. Explanation. According to Washington State Law Bill 49.52, a hate crime is defined as a crime motivated by bias or prejudice against an individual or group based on race, religion, or other characteristics. Question 19. What is the purpose of a preliminary investigation in Washington State? A. To gather evidence and determine if there is probable cause to arrest. B. To conduct a thorough investigation before presenting evidence to a grand jury. C. To interview witnesses and gather statements from suspects. D. To determine if a crime was committed. Correct answer. A. To gather evidence and determine if there is probable cause to arrest. Explanation. According to Washington State Law 29020, a preliminary investigation is conducted to gather evidence and determine if there is probable cause to arrest. Question 20. What is the definition of a misdemeanor crime in Washington State? A. A crime punishable by imprisonment for more than 1 year. B. A crime punishable by imprisonment for less than 1 year. C. A crime punishable by fines only. D. A crime punishable by community service. Correct answer. B. A crime punishable by imprisonment for less than 1 year. Explanation. According to Washington State Law UBUA 4.110, a misdemeanor crime is punishable by imprisonment for less than 1 year. Question 21. What is the purpose of a search warrant in Washington State? A. To authorize an officer to search a suspect's property without a warrant. B. To authorize an officer to search a suspect's property based on probable cause. C. To authorize an officer to seize evidence without a warrant. D. To authorize an officer to conduct a pat-down search. Correct answer. B. To authorize an officer to search a suspect's property based on probable cause. Explanation. According to Washington State Law 33030, a search warrant is issued to authorize an officer to search a suspect's property based on probable cause. Question 22. What is the definition of a juvenile in Washington State? A. An individual who is 18 years or older. B. An individual who is 17 years or older. C. An individual who is 16 years or older. D. An individual who is 15 years or younger. Correct answer. D. An individual who is 15 years or younger. Explanation. According to Washington State Law Article 30404010, a juvenile is defined as an individual who is 15 years or younger. Question 23. Officer Johnson is responding to a call about a disturbance at a local bar. Upon arrival, he finds that the disturbance has been resolved and the patrons are calm. What should Officer Johnson do? A. Write up a report and file it with the police department. B. Take statements from the witnesses and gather evidence. C. Interview the patrons and gather more information. D. Leave the scene and respond to another call. Correct answer. A. Write up a report and file it with the police department. Explanation. According to Washington State Law Article 8.8.10, when an officer has responded to a call and the situation has been resolved, they should document the incident by writing up a report and filing it with the police department. Question 24. What is the purpose of a patrol report in Washington State? A. To document arrests and citations. B. To document incidents and calls for service. C. To document traffic accidents and crashes. D. To document crimes and investigations. Correct answer. B. To document incidents and calls for service. Explanation. According to Washington State Law Article 8.8.10, a patrol report is used to document incidents and calls for service, including the facts of the incident, the actions taken, and any subsequent investigations. Question 25. What is the definition of a witness in Washington State? A. An individual who has direct knowledge of an event or incident. B. An individual who has indirect knowledge of an event or incident. C. An individual who has known knowledge of an event or incident. D. An individual who is suspected of committing a crime. Correct answer. A. An individual who has direct knowledge of an event or incident. Explanation. According to Washington State Law Article 44.20, a witness is defined as an individual who has direct knowledge of an event or incident. Question 26. What should be done when conducting a traffic stop in Washington State? A. The officer should ask the driver for identification before making contact with them. B. The officer should ask for consent before searching the vehicle. C. The officer should follow established procedures for conducting traffic stops. D. The officer should not make contact with anyone until backup arrives. Correct answer. C. The officer should follow established procedures for conducting traffic stops. Explanation. According to Washington State Law Article 64020, when conducting a traffic stop, officers should follow established procedures, including identifying themselves, explaining the reason for the stop, and providing warning and direction to the driver. Question 27. What is the purpose of a crime scene investigation in Washington State? A. To gather evidence and reconstruct the crime scene. B. To interview witnesses and suspects. C. To document the crime scene and gather physical evidence. D. To identify suspects and make arrests. Correct answer. A. To gather evidence and reconstruct the crime scene. Explanation. According to Washington State Law Article 27030, the purpose of a crime scene investigation is to gather evidence and reconstruct the crime scene, including collecting physical evidence, interviewing witnesses, and documenting all aspects of the crime scene. Question 28. What is the definition of a crime in Washington State? A. A violation of state or federal law. B. A violation of local ordinance or regulation. C. A violation of state or federal regulation only. D. A violation of state or federal law only. Correct answer. A. A violation of state or federal law. Explanation. According to Washington State Law Article 4.20, a crime is defined as a violation of state or federal law. Question 29. What should be done when responding to an emergency call in Washington State? A. The officer should respond immediately without checking if they are alone. B. The officer should check if they are alone before responding to the call. C. The officer should respond slowly and carefully to avoid any danger. D. The officer should not respond to the call unless they have backup. Correct answer. B. The officer should check if they are alone before responding to the call. Explanation. According to Washington State Law Article 36.10, when responding to an emergency call, officers should check if they are alone before responding to ensure their safety. Question 30. What is the purpose of a complaint report in Washington State? A. To document incidents and calls for service. B. To document crimes and investigations. C. To document traffic accidents and crashes. D. To document property damage claims. Correct answer. A. To document incidents and calls for service. Explanation. According to Washington State Law 8.8.10, a complaint report is used to document incidents and calls for service, including the facts of the incident, the actions taken, and any subsequent investigations.